Tony Evers told Wisconsin Today he wants to focus on hope for the future and bridging the partisan divide during his term as the next governor of Wisconsin. Evers, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, and other statewide leaders took their oaths today at the state capitol. Newswatch 12's Rose McBride was there. She joins us live in Madison tonight to tell us about what the new administration wants to focus on this upcoming term. Rose, good evening.
Wisconsin spent 8 years under Governor Walker, and Evers thinks it's time for a change. He wants to increase funding for schools, come to a long-term solution for road funding, and expand access to health care. Evers' administration will likely differ greatly from Walker's, and Walker focused predominantly on growing the economy and creating jobs. Let's take a look back at what Walker's administration accomplished and what Evers hopes to do moving forward.
From Rhinelander to Racine.
Tony Evers stood at a podium in the state capitol and told Wisconsin he has hope for the future of the state.
On Wisconsin.
The scene parallels the one 8 years ago in 2011.
We will present a bold set of reforms.
But the message was different. Walker's focus was on creating jobs. He promised during his 2010 campaign he would create 250,000 private sector jobs in his first term. While he didn't hit that goal, the Wisconsin unemployment rate hit historically low levels. He ensured the creation of more jobs by bringing Foxconn to Wisconsin, opening a plant in Mount Pleasant by 2020. But his tenure didn't come without controversy. In 2011, he pushed for and passed Act 10, which dramatically changed collective bargaining for most public sector union employees and brought 100,000 protesters to the Capitol. A capital where today, Tony Evers promised to serve the people in Wisconsin.
As elected officials, we are reminded that our obligation and our allegiance are to the people of the state, not any political leader or party.
In his first term as governor, the former state school superintendent will put a large focus on education.
We need to fully fund our public schools at every level, so that every kid in the state has access to a quality education, no matter what the zip code.
He also wants to fix roads and create a more affordable health care system to help people.
People like the mom from Oconomowoc who spends $200 a day on medication because she's among the 2.4 million Wisconsinites who have a pre-existing condition.
Evers takes office as the leader of a divided government, but he says he plans to work with the GOP to better serve the people of Wisconsin.
We are more than the sum of our differences, and what unites us is far, far greater than what divides us.
Yesterday, Evers spent some time in Appleton talking to families about why he wants to focus on children because they are the future of the state of Wisconsin. As for Walker, he signed on with a speakers bureau to travel around the country promoting conservative policies and also working on getting President Trump reelected in 2020. Live in Madison, Rose McBride, Newswatch 12.
Wisconsin will return to a divided government for the first time since 2012. Republicans controlled the Assembly, the Senate, and the governor's office under much of Scott Walker's run. But with the inauguration of Democrat Tony Evers this afternoon, things will look a little different. Newswatch 12's Rose McBride joins us live in Madison with a look at how lawmakers view the future of the 2019 session. Rose, good evening.
Lane, even before Evers took office this afternoon, it was clear that a divided government would cause some problems. In December, Scott Walker signed a series of GOP lame duck bills that would limit the powers of the incoming governor, Tony Evers, and incoming Attorney General, Josh Kaul. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos and Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald have said that they might draft their own budget instead of looking at the one that Tony Evers suggested. But Evers and some lawmakers I spoke to today said that they do plan to compromise this upcoming term.
Today's inauguration takes place in atypical circumstances.
This afternoon's inauguration was a joyous occasion, but the atypical circumstances Attorney General Josh Kaul referred to were what happened before newly elected officials took office. A month ago, during a late-night lame duck legislative session, lawmakers passed a series of GOP bills to limit Kaul's and Governor Tony Evers' power.
But I want to make clear that irrespective of the action taken by the lame duck legislature, The priorities of the Wisconsin Department of Justice are changing.
Despite the partisan divide we saw in December, lawmakers expressed they do want to compromise.
Hopefully we can find those areas of common ground.
And I'm looking forward to both sides of the aisle coming together.
5 Democrats took constitutional office this afternoon in Madison, but the GOP remains the majority in the Assembly and the Senate. Lawmakers say one of the first things they will be discussing in this session is access to health care, something both sides of the aisle want to see changed.
I see today as an invitation for all of us to do the right thing for the people of Wisconsin, who, when they get their medical bills, aren't thinking about party, they're thinking about how am I going to pay my medical bill, and that's what we need to focus on.
Other topics might have a more difficult time making their way into law.
Our challenges are going to center around funding levels for transportation, funding levels for education.
We haven't seen a divided government since early on in Governor Walker's first term. While lawmakers showed optimism about working together, the budget could be a point of contention moving forward.
I think that it could potentially be a very difficult budget cycle. I'm in high hopes that we can work together on it. I mean, here again, that would be part of the common ground of interest that we can hopefully find in portions of the budget.
The atmosphere was generally very positive today, with members of both parties attending the ceremony, but we will have to wait until those budget talks to see if those lawmakers make good on their word to come and work together. Tonight at 10, we'll have a preview of some of the topics that'll take center stage during this legislative session in 2019. Live in Madison, Rose McBride, News Watch 12.
Under Governor Walker, Wisconsin saw a dropping unemployment rate, the near elimination of collective bargaining rights for public employees, and a strong focus on business. Tony Evers' agenda will be very different from Walker's. While Evers and new members of the Assembly and Senate just took office today, we already know what lawmakers hope to work on this legislative session. Reporting from Evers' inauguration in Madison today, Newswatch 12's Rose McBride gives us a look at some of the issues elected officials want to tackle here in 2019.
May we be willing to do what's best for the next generation rather than the next election.
Democrat Tony Evers wants lawmakers to put people over party. But prior to today's inauguration, partisan battles during a lame duck session made some people unsure if a divided government would work.
Some compromise between both parties will be needed this session if they hope to get anything passed. And 3 things they're hoping to come to an agreement on are education funding, access to health care, and a long-term solution to funding our roads.
On health care, both sides want to see increased access and coverage for pre-existing conditions.
Wisconsin's very blessed by the fact that we have the #1 healthcare system in the United States for quality. But we need to make sure that that access is then affordable to like the rural and the urban areas.
But how they want to get there isn't as simple. Evers wants to expand Medicaid coverage, but Assembly Speaker Robin Vos thinks it will increase private sector costs. Evers will craft a budget in the upcoming months, which is expected to include a 10% increase in school funding, something unlikely to get initial approval from Republicans.
The budget is crafted in a way that we have to save enough money for everybody, for everything, for every department. So if he's just going to, carte blanche, just throw a bunch of money at education, I'm not quite sure that the state can take it that way.
People in Wisconsin seem to care most about those topics, and it's why they voted in the leaders they did.
When I hear from people in central Wisconsin, I always hear the same thing: healthcare, roads, education, and water quality. So I think that that's what our governor is going to do.